Hey, you mudhead. Hey, mudhead.
Hey.
How long you been here?
Since 63.
1960. And do you drink the tap water? No, you drink bottled water? You cook with the bottled water or you cook with the tap?
Well, we cook with mostly bottled water.
Good for you. All right.
Over the past year, Fletcher Sams has been testing tap water for heavy metals he believes are coming from a nearby coal plant.
And do you have any illnesses yourself or anything like that you want to talk to me about?
Well, I do have prostate cancer.
Okay.
I was diagnosed with that in 2004.
Which one's the cold?
Right here.
Right here.
Residents of Juliette, Georgia drink out of wells that tap directly into an aquifer. Also submerged into the aquifer is an ash pond, storing decades worth of the plant's waste.
What we're finding is a bunch of heavy metals in the water, like barium and vanadium and all this stuff that's in the coal ash pond.
I can take it a toll around here.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to get you all the answers, but I'll let you know what's going on with your water, you know what I mean?
Plant Sharer is the largest coal plant in the Western Hemisphere. It's owned by the utility Georgia Power. We reached out to Georgia Power earlier this year, and they declined to go on camera. But they sent us a statement. Claims that our ash ponds are causing an impact to Juliette residents' drinking water are based on inaccurate assumptions and simple correlations. But the company's own data shows components of coal ash in wells around the plant, although at levels it says are legal and consistent with naturally occurring metals in the area. Georgia Power operates 29 coal ash ponds in the state. They were built without liners that would separate them from groundwater, a practice that has since been outlawed.
So I'm wondering, is that something that the people who built the plant should have thought of even at the time?
Yeah, certainly in 1982, it was a conscious decision not to put a liner in that pond, and what we're seeing now is the consequences of that.
The EPA only started regulating coal ash in 2015. It forced plants to monitor groundwater to determine if ponds were leaking. Soon after Georgia Power began monitoring the water around Plant Sharer, the company started buying up homes in Juliette.
There's another house site right there.
Oh, so that's where a house was?
Yeah. They purchased all of this, like everything up here.
I didn't see a house, so do they?
Yeah, so when they buy the house, sometimes on closing day, they'll demolish the house and fill the well up with concrete.
Do they always do that?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, I suppose so that nobody can come in and test the well.
Georgia Power paid above market value for several homes near the pond. The company says it wanted to create a buffer zone for construction and wasn't motivated by fears of water contamination.
This is your family's house, is that correct?
My mother-in-law lived there. Over here used to be a house. Georgia Power's bought it out, and they, tore down the houses and gated it up.
Gloria Hammond refused to sell. 2 years later, she had her well tested and discovered high levels of heavy metals. She worries they caused her late husband's cancer, but can't prove it, or where the metals came from.
So when Georgia Power was coming around these parts, offering people to buy their properties, was just around the time Kaysen got his diagnosis. And could you tell me what you said to the representative who came to you?
Kaysen is wanting to die here, and we're gonna stay here till one way or the other. We'll be here until something happens.
The Georgia Power employees, if he came back today, what would you tell him?
I thought about that question 100 times. What would I do? I don't want my grandchildren to be around it. I don't know what bathing does, but as far as me, I would never leave.
Why is that?
Well, I came here at 16 as a bride. It's just too much history. I miss everybody. When I'm here, I feel a kinship to them. They're here.
Georgia Power plans to close 10 ash ponds in the state, including plant sharers, by capping them. It's a closure method approved by the EPA, and the company says it's specifically designed to be protective of groundwater. But even though Georgia Power says it plans to monitor the site for decades after the pond's closure, environmental groups say this method won't stop the contamination. So over 70 town residents traveled to the Capitol to lobby lawmakers. They wanted to force Georgia Power to remove the coal ash and place it in an impermeable liner.
Hey, let's all stand in a circle and hold hands and bless this trip before we get going.
Father, we love you. We thank you for the opportunity to gather. We thank you for just a country that we can have the right to protest, and we have the right to petition and to just make a voice heard.
I just wanted to see if I could encourage you to support House Bill 756.
Let's go last night.
Yes, sir.
But I'm going to give you this. This here, if you need proof, read this.
I'm not going to have time to read that between now and the time we vote. So.
That's what we need is the testing results. Because I hear Georgia Power telling all of us their testing results, and they say there's not a problem.
The proof is right here.
Okay. Well,
The proof is in the groundwater.
Why are the lawmakers challenging the test results?
Because it's the only thing that they can nitpick at right now, right? They're saying that they want more proof. They have a certified hydrogeologist that came and said that Georgia Power is polluting the aquifer unquestionably, right?
That already happened.
Yeah, that already happened. You're holding it in your hand. They need to do their job and protect their constituents, period.
Ultimately, state lawmakers didn't allow a hearing on the bills. Then, after the coronavirus hit, many of the town's efforts were stalled. That is until June, when the county finally intervened.
New at 10, the city of Juliette is one step closer to cleaner drinking water. Monroe County received water pipes for their Juliette Rum Creek Water Project. This $16.3 million project will serve over 850 homes. Our Nick Gibson spoke with the Juliette resident today and has his...
So this is the start of a $16 to $17 million project to bring clean water to the residents around Lake Juliette.
I understand that residents in the county have been complaining for quite a long time about issues in the water. So why did it take the county commission so long to come up with the plan?
Sure. So a couple of things. You've got to have the political will, and you've got to have the group working together. You've got to have the finances available to do so, which, you know, all of that's kind of come together in a good, perfect storm, you know, to be able to put this in for everybody.
Is this getting done fast enough?
I mean, it's going to end up being 2.5 years, 2.5 years. I mean, I'd like it to be less, but we're going to do it in 3 phases, and each phase will have 3 parts. We're in phase 1 right now, working on the first part, and then every 30 to 60 days, we'll start a part of each phase.
Do you think that whoever is responsible for the contamination of the water should pay for the pipes?
Well, sure. Anybody that's responsible ought to pay. The question is, who's responsible?
My understanding is that the aquifer has been shown by Georgia Power's own scientists to have contamination from the coal ash pond. Do you need more proof than that?
Well, I've heard that and seen it. The rest of the story is, if you ask Georgia Power, they have wells all around the coal ash pond, and they don't have the levels of hexavalent chromium, for example, in those that people have in their wells. So it, again, becomes problematic. Anybody that's liable ought to be, make restitution. And so, again, we'll keep following that. If it ends up being proven, then we'll go back and say, hey, look, we had to put in $17 million of water lines, and we need to get repaid for that.
For Sam's, the pipes are a major win when it comes to supplying clean water to the residents. But it isn't the only battle he's been fighting.
If you're looking at where you see it kind of looks like very fuzzy looking, that rust is just oxidation of the metal.
He took us to the site of a suspected surface water seep on the edge of Georgia Power's property. are the water lines a victory for Juliette?
Absolutely, it's a huge victory, and the residents of Juliette had fought very hard for it, but it doesn't resolve the underlying issue of there being 15 million tons of toxic waste in a leaky unlined pit. The remedy should not be, oh, well, we can provide people water lines and we can just contaminate groundwater all over the state. It harms the environment, it harms property values, and we still have a couple of years before all these residents are going to get clean water from municipal water supply.
What makes Juliette unique in terms of the location of the plant and of the coal ash pond?
So coal burning plants generate steam, right? And so you need a steady water supply in order to feed the steam generation. What they did was they formed a lake on the south side of the plant, and they feed that lake with a creek. The problem with that is that most plants are right adjacent to the river, and so groundwater contamination typically doesn't move a ton off-site. It does a little bit, but when you have a plant that is off the river and you have a bunch of residences that live in a 360-degree circle around the plant, there is no way for the groundwater to reach the river without affecting wells.
Right, got it. And so everyone here is on a well, is that right? That's where they get their drinking water.
So there's approximately 1,007 wells in this area.
Can you explain why capping the pond and dewatering it, which is what Georgia Power is proposing, is not sufficient?
Sure. Putting a cap over the top to keep the rainwater out doesn't do anything for the bottom. And if the bottom is going to be 25 feet submerged into the aquifer at the end of the day, under normal conditions, that is still leaching into the groundwater, right? And here, of all the sites, is that is the most critical because everybody's drinking the same water from the same aquifer.
I guess I'm wondering, you must have a lot of pressure, or I don't know if you feel like you put pressure on yourself, or do you feel like obviously you have the community, but how alone do you feel in fighting this?
I help try to get things started, but they've been working on this for years. All that I'm doing is coming in with an assist, but I am very driven to a point where I'm almost kind of self-destructive with, if I get onto something, I will lose sleep over it and just kind of work myself into the ground. And sometimes, it feels like you're pretty alone, but every time I come to Juliette, I don't feel alone.